All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise to Yahawah, Hasham, Yahawashi. I want to give double honors to our apostles and our elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and many blessings to you elect and sincere sisters that listen to this thing of ours. This is the brother Sha'ar from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, and I wanted to read this whole chapter of Psalm 73. It was on my spirit to just go into where is it at the fifth verse. But I mean, the whole chapter kind of goes into it, and it's not a long chapter anyway. It's only 28 verses, and I'll pull up through the spirit, pull some precepts out here and there. But mainly, what this chapter is going into is the wicked, pretty much, and how they conduct themselves and live their lives. As of course, it's going into how they live their lives today, how they're blessed to get synthetic, how they're not in trouble as we are, how they don't get punished as we do, not yet at least, because we know that everything that's done to us is going to be paid back double according to them. But just according to right now, just how Esau, the so-called white man, is living, because mainly this chapter is talking about him, because we know that he's the wicked according to the scriptures. Okay, and it also just goes into how this oppression that we're going through is only going to be for a small amount of time. It's minute compared to eternity. Just going into to hold your composure and to keep your integrity, because this is a psalm of Asaph. And he also goes into how he almost had fell off, just being laden with, well, what's the word I'm looking for, laden with envy at the wicked, and it kind of almost changed his walk in his truth. But I'm going to start at verse 1. Lord, I'm going to edifying again through the Spirit. I'm going to pull up a few precepts here and there as I'm going into it. But this is Psalms chapter 73, verse 1. And it says, a psalm of Asaph. Truly the Most High is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. All right? Yahawashi is good to Israel. All right? Even the 2/3 after they die, they're going to come back and have rulership in the kingdom. But it specifies in the second part of the verse when it says, even to such as are of a clean heart. Now, who is that have a clean heart? That goes into the elect. The elect are the ones that have a clean heart. Okay, that means to have a clean mind. All right, and how do you have a clean mind? Being baptized within His Word. All right, because that's ultimately how you're cleansed. Okay, verse 2 says, but as for me, my feet are almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. So this is the example of, pretty much him almost falling off. Because when it goes to your feet, it just goes into your stability. All right. It goes into your foundation. All right. How you stand firmly is from your feet, and thinking of it as a spiritual point, he almost slipped away. That foundation was almost gone, man. All right. And why is that? Verse 3 says, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. All right. And a lot of times when you're in this thing, especially being younger in the faith, coming from a younger brother in the faith, when you look and see how these heathen, mainly Esau, but how these heathen are over us, it can make you go off, man. It can make you not want to talk like that no more. It could change your whole mindset of reality, and being engulfed in envy, you can fall off, man. All right. Because I'm going to go to this scripture really quick. Bear with me one sec, Bear with me one sec. This is Ecclesiastes 7:7. It says, surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. So when you go into this word mad, that word there is halal. And when you go into that word halal, it says to shine, to flash forth, to be boastful. Let me see here. To act madly, act like a madman. Okay, that was the key point, really. I mean, of course, a lot of this stuff up here says a lot, but the key point in there was to act madly or act like a madman. All right, so it doesn't necessarily have to mean oppression make the wise man angry. Even it does make us angry. You know what I mean? That's why we want this devil to fall so much, man, because what he's done to us as a nation. But mainly, you can act like a madman once you get engulfed in your envy at this. It can make you mad mentally. All right, it can make you go crazy, and going crazy and not fixing it within prayer, fasting, and so forth, you can fall off. All right. But again, going back to Psalm 73, it says, "For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked." And don't get it wrong, you know what I mean? Of course, you're gonna feel a type of way when you see Esau ruling over you. When you see when you see these, like, there's a little gnat flying, but when you see these Jakes getting shot and killed by the police, all right. When you see all sorts of wickedness that the wicked are doing, that they're not being atoned for, and it can make you feel a type of way. You know, a righteous man is going to feel a type of way, especially when he's being oppressed. But being in the sanctuary of the Most High, we have understanding of why. All right. We know that this is a punishment ultimately for us. Okay. But the beautiful part is that they're going to receive double. Okay. And that's something just to keep in your mind. All right. This thing isn't forever that we're going through. It's only a short, small amount of time. This isn't forever. It might feel like it's forever. But even as you read it in Revelation, I believe the 20th chapter, it's only for a short season. This devil's going to go through this, man. He is let loose for a short season. And that short season started during the Renaissance. All right. But continuing on, in verse 4, it says, "For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men." And you have certain examples as certain Jakes going to jail for maybe assault, maybe battery, certain things. What's the word? Domestic violence. And again, not saying it's right to do these things, because this is transgression of the law. But you have certain Edomites that might go to jail for rape, battery, so forth. And you got the Edomite he's not even going to jail. He gets probably probation, certain years of probation. Then he's walking away scotch-free. But Jake will get 25 to life. Look at I believe his name is George Zimmerman or Greg Zimmerman, one of those. His last name is Zimmerman. But what happened after he had shot and killed Trayvon Martin? What happened to him? Walked away scotch-free. All right. And also too, now you got certain he's in he went to a celebrity boxing match, something like that. You know, you got these Edomites that get away scotch-free after their wickedness that they're doing. But these Jakes will get hit double, triple, quadruple. All right. The reason why is because you have a system that's being ran by the so-called white man. All right. A system that's set up for him to progress, set up for him to succeed in life. All right. That's where you get white privilege from, man. White supremacy is at an all-time high. These so-called Joe Smo six-pack Edomites that you see every day, they might talk this and that and say that they don't like how we were oppressed, but they're still walking and reaping the benefits of their fathers that had founded this land. All right. So there's numerous examples in the 5th verse when it says they are not in trouble as other men. All right. Look at OJ, man. OJ had went to jail for killing his wife, even though hey, according to who was it? Lee Hart. What's his name? I can't remember his name. Salakia. You Jakes know that's watching the video. His attorney, pretty much, who had said if the glove don't fit, that's not a quit. All right. Even though we know OJ had did it, but he had did it really on a righteous standpoint because this woman was committing adultery. Now, did he turn the other cheek? No, he didn't. That's why he got punished for it. But hey, he's walking away, and you should see the look on these Edomites, man. They're angry as hell. Even at camp one Friday, Jake was asking Edomites how did they feel about OJ being released from prison, and they hated it. They hated hearing it. But then when you ask the so-called white man about how they feel about Christopher Columbus founding America and Thanksgiving, and they speak very highly of it. Really, Christopher Columbus was wicked in his doings. All right, O.J. Simpson really killed his wife who committed adultery. The scriptures say you can do it. Was it prudent? Absolutely not. Am I uplifting O.J. Simpson for it? Absolutely not. He's a coon-ass nigga. But just bring up the example of it, man. These Edomites hate it when a so-called black man succeeds in something when they might be so-called wrong for it according to their judicial system. But on the other hand, when it's Esau doing it, they get a high five. What's his name? The serial killer that was killing in the 70s. What's his name? I don't know why I can't remember his name right now. He had a following of a bunch of women looking like Cesare Borgia. Salaki, I can't remember his name, but he's getting released from prison. And you don't hear Esau talking about this. You don't hear Esau complaining, talking mess. You know, that just goes into white supremacy, white privilege, man. And it shows that they are not in trouble as other men. These cops are killing Jakes daily, man. It's always a story about a Jake being harassed or Jake being killed. Nothing happens to these cops. They get paid vacation pretty much. They get leave of absence. They don't lose their job. All right? But hey, it just goes into the system that we're living in. All right? And why we should hate the so-called white man. This is the devil, man. But this is his system. Okay? Verse 6 says, therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment. Look at their history. Their history consists of rape, robbery, and murder. All right? Let's go to Salakia. Let's go to Habakkuk. I believe it's Habakkuk 2. Hold on. Yeah. Hold on 1 sec. Yeah. Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yea. Also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man. And what is proud? That means pride. All right. Going into his pride. And neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and as in death, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathering unto him all nations and heaping unto him all people. All right. Just go into how he transgresses by wine, which is philosophy. All right. And when it says doesn't keep it home, this man goes all over the world, sets up embassies, sets up banks, and establishes himself, man. You can't go nowhere on the planet where it ain't no so-called white man now. All right. And it says who enlargeth his desire is hell. That goes into his blessing being the fatness of the earth. All right. Mainly this is going to his pride. All right. So I'm going to go back to Psalm 73. And it says, therefore pride compasseth him about as a chain, violence covereth him as a garment. Because everywhere he goes, he sets up violence. All right, look at how he so-called founded America. He had founded it off of violence, rape, robbery, murder, genocide, slavery, so forth. And what has happened to him since then? Nothing. But his fall is coming very soon. All right. But when I say this, you ask a so-called white man, you ask an Edomite, what do you think should happen to the so-called white man? What do you think should happen to these people out of all the atrocities they've committed throughout the planet Earth? They'll say, oh, it was bad, but that wasn't me. That wasn't me. But then again, our people were in slavery. That wasn't us, but we're still feeling the effects of it. Something has to give. All right. But they don't see it that type of way because that's their pride. They're blinded by their pride. All right. It compasses them as a chain. Verse 7 says, their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than their heart could wish. Just like we had read in Habakkuk 2. Okay, and reading it again. It says, also he transgresseth by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell. And let's go to Obadiah. Obadiah, it's only one verse, but it says, if thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? All right, so that just goes into their greed, the gluttony of them. You got a man that's gathering all the grapes from all over the place. And this is just an analogy. He ain't gonna give no grapes to nobody that asks, period. He taking grapes that ain't his, taking houses that ain't his, taking lands that ain't his. And you ask for reparations, which you so-called Negroes ain't gonna get no reparations, all right? The elect's gonna receive reparations through Yahawah, Yahawashi ultimately, okay? But going into these Jakes ask for reparations, they ain't getting no reparations, man. All right? You got the so-called Native American that might receive some type of land, but when you go into this, man, these reservations, man, those are some of the worst places on the planet Earth, man. You got the biggest gangs out there. What is it? Herons at an all-time high out there. Ice was crystal meth. All right, these so-called Native Americans are in a bad state, man. You Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans aren't going to receive no reparations from the so-called white man who's the devil the Bible speaks of, man. He's not going to give no grapes. He's going to take and take and take until his belly is full, pursuing the Job, the 20th chapter. All right. Also, too, when we read it again, it says, where do we leave off at? Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than their heart could wish. Why is that? Because when you go to it in Genesis, the 20th chapter, the 27th chapter, his blessing, and this is the blessing of Esau. Therefore, the Most High gave thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine. And let's jump down to verse, Salaki, I'm going to jump down to verse 39. And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, behold. And this is when Esau's asking what blessing he shall receive. All right, after Isaac after Jacob had taken the birthright. All right, Isaac's giving them the blessing. And Esau's blessing is, and Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. So this shows you that it's talking about Esau. This never changed. And this shows you that Esau's a so-called white man. Because you have a phrase that's called, how does it go? This is a white man's world. All right. Shows you who's really ruling the world right now, man. You look at the elites, the 13 families. Ain't none of them, nobody else but so-called white men. All right. Look who really owns the banks. All right. Look who owns the prison systems. Look who has all this stuff set up in their and to their doings, to their likeness. It's the so-called white man. Look at the picture of all the prophets and the judges on the planet Earth that they've painted over. It's the so-called white man. Look at the picture of that they set up to be Yahawashi. Cesare Borgia. Who is that? The so-called white man. All right. He has the fatness of the earth. He has more than his heart could wish. All right. Look at the money in America, mainly because, of course, even though it's a falling currency, it's still the leading currency right now. Whose face is on it? The so-called white man's. All right. Verse 8 says, they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak lawfully. And that's true. Okay, that's true. Because they'll be quick to say, we brought y'all over here. Y'all were a bunch of savages when you were over in Africa. Even though we know we're not from Africa, but we were taken here from Western Africa. They'll say that we needed rulership set up. When they came over here to the Americas, they say that we were a bunch of savages, a bunch of scoundrels that needed to be taken down. And that's in the diary of Christopher Columbus, man. Speaking wickedly concerning oppression is having so-called holidays like Thanksgiving, Christopher Columbus Day, celebrating it. All right. Because when you really look into it, there was a lot of blood that's behind those days. But they speak lawfully concerning that because they uplift it and they celebrate it. And they got you low-level so-called Negroes and Latinos celebrating that heavy. Even out of all the tribes, you got the northern parts of the northern kingdom where you so-called Native Americans that know not to celebrate it. All right? But you Negroes and Latinos are still doing it, man. Okay? Verse 9 says, they set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth, man. And how is that, man? They speaking against the Most High. All right. Matter of fact, when you go to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25, it says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And that's happening right now, man. GMOs, cloning animals, trying to clone humans. Saying we need to be stopped. Make America great again. Let's make America great again. When America was founded off of rape, robbery, and murder, that's when it was considered so-called great. All right? That's all them speaking great words against the Most High because they speaking against his people. The apple of his eye. There's so many examples of the so-called white man speaking great words against the Most High. He speaks against the heavens. And he does that more so through his actions. All right. Setting up wicked decrees. Okay. Giving rights to pedophiles. Giving rights to homosexuals. Letting women rule over the man. There's numerous examples of it. But we see it. I'm gonna put it like this, man. If you are without it, when I say without, if you might be watching these, or if you watch our videos and feel like we're wrong for what we're saying, you need to die, man. Death is the only thing. Death is the only thing that you need. All right, because if you can look at America and say that this place is cool, and say that this white man don't need to be punished, you need to die along with him, man. All right, because any man with a working brain can see that the so-called white man has done numerous amounts of atrocities throughout the planet Earth. All right, but I'm gonna continue on in verse 10. It says, therefore his people return hither, and waters of a full cup are wrung out to them, as they say, how doeth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world, they increase in riches. So that shows you that it's the so-called white man. It says, and they say, how doth God know? Is there knowledge in the Most High? Let's go to Psalms. I think it's in Psalm 64. I believe it's in Psalm 64. Let me see here. Yeah. Psalm 64 and 2. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. And really, this is going into the elites. All right. But hey, the elites are the higher ups, their own people. All right. Who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. That also goes into them speaking lawfully, like we just read in Psalm 73. That they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? All right. Because that's why the scriptures in verse 2 says it's in their secret counsel. All right. They do a lot of these things in secret. They pass a lot of these laws in secret. All right. Especially when it has to do to the destruction of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because this is what these scriptures are going into in Psalm 64. How they can take us out, man. Because ultimately this whole thing is about the Israelites. This whole book that we read is about the Israelites. Even when you read in Psalms 83, how all these nations come together just so we can consider, just so they can put us not being a people anymore. So they can hide our heritage from us. All right. But the key point of that was them saying, who shall see them? All right. So as we go back to Psalm 73 and 11, it says, and they say, how doth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper, and they increase in their riches. All right. Let's go to James 5. James 5 and 1. Go to now, ye rich men. Weep and howl, for your misery shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupt, and your garments are moth-eaten. And why is that? We just read it in Habakkuk chapter 2. It's corrupt because it's founded off of blood. It's founded off of rape, robbery, and murder. And we can say that over and over and over again. All right? It's like you got to chisel that into the mind of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because they'll say, oh, we need to forgive them. All right, man, look at them, man. They still have a firm foundation of white supremacy. They'll be quick to say, oh, we need to all come together and hold hands. Man, the scriptures say, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished. All right? Since these men had ruled the planet Earth, look at it, man. You can't even breathe clean air anymore. When you even look at the food that they're giving to us, man, it's injected with not adrenaline. It's injected with steroids. The food that we're eating is full of bacteria. The vegetables that we're eating are sprayed with doo-doo water. All right. Fecal matter is in our foods. And this is all just so the so-called white man can receive his riches, man. All right. He didn't even care about his own people anymore. Is the crazy part, which shows you that we're in a wicked rulership. All right. It says your gold and your silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for these last days, man. All right. And what they've bought, what they've received, what they've taken is going to be witnessed against them, because it's tangible. It's carnal. Their gold, their silver, their cars, their houses. And the day of destruction is not going to benefit them at all, period. Okay. I'm going to jump back to Psalm 73. It says, behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world, they increase in riches. Verily, I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. All right. And this is Asaph speaking, but also too, we all can say this, of course, being members of the hopeful elect, continuing on in sincerity and truth. All right. But that's what we want to do, to wash our hands in innocency. All right. And this even reminds me of Psalms 24. Let's see here. Psalms 24:4. He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, who have not lifted up his soul in the vanity of their. Well, let's jump up to verse 3. Salakia. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who shall stand in his holy place? And this goes into righteous rulership in the kingdom. All right. Governing the world through righteousness, the elect. That's what it's talking about. Verse 24. Verse 4. He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, who have not lifted up his soul in the vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. These are the ones that's going to ascend into the hill of Yahawah Hasham Yahawashi. Okay? So as we read in Psalm 73, in verse 13, verily I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. All right? And that's how we're going to receive the governing body. That's how you're going to be part of the governing body in the kingdom. All right. Verse 14 says, for all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. And that's going into us being in captivity mainly, man, because we plagued and chastened every morning. Having to wake up hella early and rush to work just to receive a paycheck that they take tons of taxes out of. All right. Waking up, coughing, sneezing due to the air that we're breathing, the stuff we're putting in our bodies. All right, a lot of us are sick, man, having to wake up and endure through this. Certain brothers have infirmities that they got to wake up and take certain pills for and treatments for. All right, tons of wickedness that's going on, man. We're plagued daily. Even reminds me of Psalms 44. I don't got to get it right now because, I didn't want to make this too long. But it just goes into how we're sheep accounted for to the slaughter. All right, Psalm 73:15. If I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. Until I went into the sanctuary of the Most High, then understood I their end. And what's that? Being in this truth. Having the spirit of Yahawah Hasham Yahawashi dealing with you. That's when you get to understanding why we're going through what we're going through as a nation, as a people. Okay? The understanding of these scriptures being given unto you. Because you got a lot of these men that claim to be, I don't want to say in the know because they're not in the know, but I'm going to put it like this. You got a lot of these so-called conscious people that claim to know why what's going on, but they don't. That's why they shoot up the Bible. That's why they speak great things against the scriptures, just like their daddy Esau does, man. But the only ones that understand this are the ones that's in the know. The ones who the spirit of Yahawah Hashem Yahawashi is with, all right? The elect, Lord, willing we those men, the ones that he had called. Because when he knocked on that door, that's knocking on our mind, and he's supping with us. That's us being in the sanctuary, okay? Having that hyssop on us. Until I went to the sanctuary of the Most High, then I understood their end. All right, because again, a simp is going to be like, well, no, I think all men are equal. Even though they did this to us in the past, we need to look forward to the future. They don't get it, man. They ain't going to understand that end. That shows you that the spirit's not dealing with men that say that. All right? You got to be a real simp to believe that nothing's going to happen to the so-called white men after all they've done to the planet Earth, to everything they've done. You got to be a real simp, a real nincompoop, to really just think that we all going to live in peace and unity when the so-called white man got his boot in the back of your neck, man. All right? The only people that don't got a seat in the UN is you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And you love to have it so. Jucking and jiving still to this day. Psalm 73:18. Surely thou didst set them in a slippery place. Thou castest them down into destruction. All right? And that reminds me of Job 20. Where it says, me see here if I can find it. I mean, this whole chapter goes into it as well. Yeah, 20 and 15. He had swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. The Most High shall cast them out of his belly. And what's the riches that he's gonna vomit up? All right, these lands that he's received, the gold and silver that we had just read about in James the 5th chapter, everything that you see, his fatness that he had received, that he's just continue to eat down. He's gonna vomit all of that back up, man. All right, that's why in verse 14 actually it says, "Yet his meat and his bowels is turned. It is of the gall of asps within him." All right, and that goes into just pretty much his synthetic blessing that he's eating. All right, that carnality that he's eating, all the meat that he's eating is finna get thrown back up, man. Going back, it says, "Surely thou didst set them in slippery places, thou castest them down into destruction. How art they brought into desolation, as in a moment they are utterly consumed with terrors." And that's going to happen very, very, very soon, man. When Yahawah Yahawashi gives his elect men that glory, that spiritual power, when he shall make us that sharp threshing instrument with teeth, pursuing to Isaiah and Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter, that's when he's going to be in terrors. That's when he's going to be in dire straits. Especially when you read the whole book of Isaiah 14. Verse 20 says, "As a dream, when one awaketh, so, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image." So this thing is it's going to be like a dream, man. This thing is only momentarily. It might seem like an eternity, but it's really not. And that even goes into Job chapter 20. Let me see, Salaki. Got it written down as well. Job chapter 20, I believe it's in verse 8. "He shall fly away as a dream, and shall not be found. Yea, he shall be chased away as a vision of the night." And that's really talking about the so-called white man. Because when you're concerning to the book of Obadiah, after he serves his captivity, yes, he's going to serve slavery. He's going to get his ass burnt the hell up, man. All right? And we're going to rejoice in that day. We're going to rejoice while we have them in slavery. We're going to rejoice, Lord, when we the elect, as I say, on this side, when the Lord delivers us up, Lord, when we those men, speaking as one of the members of the hopeful elect, it says, "Happy shall he be." That matter of fact, I don't want to speak idly. Let me get it really quick in Psalms 58 and 10. "The righteous shall rejoice when he seeth the vengeance. He shall wash his feet in the blood of the wicked." A lot of jakes will look at that and be like, "No, you ain't supposed to say that." Talking about how we gonna dance in their blood. Yeah, I'm gonna dance in the blood of the so-called white man. They'll look at you and say, "We sound crazy for it." These church jakes will say, "We sound crazy for it." But if we say that, we wrong. But what does that make King David, man? Because I believe this was written by King David, man. Okay, to the chief musician, Altashith Mitzim of David. Okay, so this is a righteous man speaking this, man. So what does that make y'all look like when we say things like this? Shows you that you of the wicked as well, man. Just like your daddy, the devil, man. All right? But I'm going to go back. It says, "Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I, and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand." Okay? So now he's reflecting. "Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked." Reflecting back when you go all the way to verse 2. When it says, "But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped." Because after this, he's going into all the atrocities that the so-called white man has done. And then he thinks back like, man, we got to think about it like that, man. We got to think back like we in the sanctuary of the Heavenly Father. He's going to take care of us, man. All this is happening for a reason. This is the complete algorithm of the Heavenly Father. And we got to think back to he's going to give us righteousness, man. We're going to receive glory. The elect is going to receive glory. The nation is going to receive glory, man. When you think back of your envy, that envious feeling that you have toward them, after all this, it's like, man, we about to receive a kingdom. It's a lot better than this mess that we see out here. Yeah, this stuff is momentarily. Yeah, it's short. Yeah, it might hurt. But we got something a lot bigger that's coming to us, man. We can't just think of ourselves right now, man. We got to think about Yahawashi, Yahawashi. We're setting up a standard right now, okay? A standard is being established, and it's beautiful witnessing this. To partake in being part of the Godhead body, okay? To partake in being the first fruits, to receive glory, that's a beautiful thing, man. And again, you're going to think back like, man, I was tripping. I was tripping when I thought about all this stuff, man. We was tripping. But we got this thing, man. We got to keep pushing, okay? Jumping back down to where I left off at, it says, so foolish was I and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. All right? And Yahawashi is holding us by our right hand, man. He's holding his elect by his right hand, by their right hand. It says in the scriptures, they bones shall not be broken. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterwards receive me to glory. All right. And who is the counsel? What is the counsel? Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel. All right. That can really just go into being part of this body, man, being part of this church. Okay. Because when you go, I'm going to go to it really quick. Amos chapter 3. It says in verse 7, surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophet. And when you go into this, I believe it's secret. It's counsel. Oh, I'm going to go to the word. That word is kawad. And it says council or assembly. All right. And the assembly is the ones that sit in the sanctuary of Yahawashi, Yahawashi, the body. All right. The assembly or the company. Other men that's like-minded, that's going through the same exact thing. A circle of familiar friends. And how is it familiar? Because we all going through the same thing. We all might have those thoughts. It says a familiar converse. What is that? Holy, that's conversation, man. Being in holy conversation amongst one another. Intimacy with the Most High. All right? Because we're close to the Most High. All right? We're the Most High's woman. So he's going to tell all of his secrets unto these people that he had gave his word to. Because this is all a secret. But it's revealed unto us. Lord willing, he keeps the spirit on us to keep it. Okay? So I thought about that scripture, when I thought about that. And again, it says, thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? But there is none upon earth that I desire beside thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but the Most High is the strength of my heart, and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. Thou hast destroyed all them that go a-whoring from thee. But it is good for me to draw near to the Most High. I have put my trust in the Lord Yahawah, that I may declare all thy works. And that's ultimately what we have to do. While we're going through all these things that we just read in the 73rd chapter, how this devil's ruling over us, how all these bad things are happening to us and nothing's happening to the so-called white man, how they receive the fatness of the earth. Now we have understanding on all of this. And while we're going through all of this, while we're going through our groanings daily, as we wake up in our pains, having to wake up hella early and going to work, sometimes rushing through traffic, so forth, we still have to continue to put our trust in Yahawashi, Yahawashi. Because he's holding us by our right hand still. He could have let us go at any time. We the ones that transgressed. We the ones that went off. But he's still holding us, man. Shouldn't that be enough to make you want to keep fighting? To make you want to keep moving? But again, it was in my spirit to do that. Only really just intended on to do it on one verse. To go into a few precepts. But, hey, the spirit had it, the whole chapter being brought out. But Lord willing, it was edifying. We almost out of here. Literally, we are almost out of here, man. We see the finish line. And like Apostle Kabar likes to say, man, when you see that finish line, when you're in a marathon, man, all that doubt comes to your mind. Even Yahawashi doubted. When he asked, why Eli, why hast thou forsaken me, man? But right after that, Yahawashi received his glory. All right? The Lord ain't forsaken us, man. That doubt demon needs to leave. Pray that off, man. The Lord is about to glorify his men. We finna be glorified. Lord willing, we those men. All right. Again, want to give all praise to Yahawah, Hasham, Yahawashi. Want to give double honors to our apostles and our elders of Great Millstone that rule well. And peace and citation to the elect Akim, Bayat Dawada, that goes into the house of David in the Hebrew, kicking this word of sincerity and truth. All right, and blessings to you, sincere sisters, of you few sincere sisters that watch us, that listen to us. All right. Again, want to give all praise to Yahawah, Hasham, Yahawashi. Shalom.